Hello and welcome to Stowe Talks, a podcast designed to support people going through a relationship breakdown and all the challenges this brings. I'm Matthew Taylor.
And I'm Liza Gatchell, family lawyers at Stowe Family Law. And today we're looking at questions clients frequently ask us. How much does it cost to get divorced?
I guess before we come on to finances, costs for the divorce and not being married part, Lisa?
So there's a court fee. So whether you issue the application on your online yourself or whether you instruct lawyers, you will have to pay the court fee. So the court fee is £593. And then it depends on whether you instruct solicitors, and different solicitors will have different charges for that. At Stowe, we do charge a fixed fee. At the moment, it's £750 plus VAT. So, you're looking at roughly, is it 1,493, something along those lines?
Yeah, I'm going to trust you on those numbers,
Maths is probably not my strongest point, actually, but it's around about that for kind of like the whole package for the divorce.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the not being married part, but obviously where we tend to come in and where the bulk of the work is done with a divorce is in terms of sorting out the finances. So I don't think we need to, we've done lots of podcasts about the process of finances, about, the litigants in person guide to court is really helpful for that, I think. So, we won't go over that in too much detail because there's lots of different processes. We talk about voluntary disclosure all the time. We talk about mediation. We talk about going to court, and obviously the costs that you spend are going to be dependent on the process, but also dependent on the assets. If you've got a very, very complicated case, there are lots of assets in multiple jurisdictions, you're dealing with companies, you're dealing with trusts, your costs are going to be hugely different from if it's a house and the pension and it's nice and straightforward. Your costs are going to depend on the seniority of the lawyer who works on your case. So, but I think as a general rule, it's fair to say that the more you can do yourself and the less you can involve the court, the cheaper it is. I think that's probably fair, isn't it, Lisa?
Yeah, I think that's fair. If you could use out of court resolution, so whether that's roundtable meetings, whether that's mediation, whether that's solicitors negotiations, I think the costs of those cases where we do settle without issuing an application to court are always quite significantly actually cheaper than the ones that go to court.
The one caveat that I would have to this, because I think there's sometimes a temptation for clients to hear that and think, well, why would anyone ever go to court? And I think that I'm probably a bit more pro-court than a lot of family lawyers. I think there's a great deal of benefit to it because what can be ruinously expensive is spending a long time in an out-of-court process, it never really working because one or both parties aren't engaged, and then going to court as well. So I think, there's an element of picking the right option for you early, and shying away from court to save money can often backfire because you end up there anyway. And, there are cases that just need to be in court, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you can do court and do it well and be decent, and it doesn't have to be a huge bum fight. But there are some inbuilt costs with court and things that probably build things up a bit more.
I think it depends a little bit on the area as well, doesn't it? Because I know we've spoken previously, obviously Matt's up north, I'm in the south. Your courts deal with things much quicker than ours do. So I think it's having an idea of sort of your local area, what the court lists are like, etc. When you're weighing all of this up.
Definitely. I think the real difference though, and this applies to court as to non-court dispute resolution, is that the way to save money is to settle and not require someone to give you a decision. So if you're in, the best way to settle things is to do things through mediation. And there is a big, we're recording this in April 2024. We are 2 days away from a change to the family procedure rules, which compels parties to do more in terms of NCDR, non-court dispute resolution, because if it works, it saves money and saves time, and frankly, saves the court time. So if you can settle through one of those processes, mediation, roundtables, divorce surgery, whatever it might be, that's going to save you money. But similarly, if you're in court and you're both sensible and you settle at a negotiation hearing like the FDR, your costs are going to be far less than going all the way to a final hearing, have a judge determine things, and to probably get a similar sort of answer that you could have settled at with a bit of a judicial steer at an earlier stage in the process.
I think it's just about being upfront as well, isn't it? So, we've talked about disclosure. If you're asked to provide a document, just provide the subject to your lawyer saying that it is reasonable for you to provide that document. just provide it, because costs will be increased as well if things are having to be chased and things are provided piecemeal. I always talk to clients when they're completing Form E's, which is the financial disclosure form for court, that if you can provide me with all of the documentation in one go in chronological order, your costs are going to be significantly less than if you turn up at the office with a plastic bag full of envelopes of statements that we have to rifle through and put into order as well. So there is so much that parties can do to keep things as cost effective as possible for themselves.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's really important. And I think the other way to keep costs down is to not get drawn into litigation and correspondence. There are too many cases where letters will fly backwards and forwards between lawyers, emails will fly backwards and forwards, and you're arguing every single point. And sometimes you need to have those arguments, and that's fine. But there can be cases where that escalates and you're arguing about absolutely everything, and it's just not proportionate to do that. So I think limiting, the fights that you have, limiting the battles, picking the fights, and being really sensible about what is actually important to reach the goal that you want to reach, rather than to have the thing that's maybe bothering you that Tuesday afternoon, is a real good way to keep costs down. Any other tips for how costs can be kept down, how you can manage your costs in what can be a really expensive process?
So when we're looking at keeping costs down then with a divorce, whether we're talking about the divorce or finances, I think the main advice I would have is just to be organised. Try and respond to correspondence in a timely manner. If you're asked to provide some information or documentation, provide everything or set expectations. So if you need to speak to your accountant or somebody else before you're able to get back on a certain point, let people know that that's the case. And yeah, if as I think I said it earlier, if you're being asked to provide bank statements, etc., just try and provide them in a user-friendly format, so that the legwork, if you like, as far as organising that documentation is done by you, and you're not paying the lawyer to do that for you.
Yep.
So that's it for this episode of Stowe Talks. Thanks for listening. If you would like more information on our podcasts, head over to stowtalks.co.uk, and please rate, like, share and review this podcast where you can.